Hey guys, Morktorkus here. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about Paladin. We're doing their final card review, looking at all the cards they've gotten for Ashes of Outland, with the context of the entire set now that we've seen all of the cards. I've already done some reviews for some of the other classes. We're going to do all of the classes by the end of this. After we've done the card reviews, we'll be looking at some Theorycrafted deck lists that I've created for Paladin for the upcoming set. My experience building these decks also helped me in evaluating the cards as to whether I'd want to include them in a deck or not. So alright, let's just hop right into it. So Paladin's getting a couple of archetypes getting support this expansion. The first one is Murlocs. So the first card we have is Imprisoned Sungill. 1 mana 2/1 Murloc, dormant for 2 turns. When this attacks, summon 2 1/1 Murlocs. So this is really slow for a Murloc card. You play it on 1, hopefully, and then they get released on turn 3, but then they still can't attack until the next turn after that. So it's quite a few Murlocs for 1 mana for sure, but the delay is really slowing you down. You can follow this up with like a Cold Light Seer the turn that they pop out, so that it becomes a much more threatening board, because it is just a 2/1 and 2 1/1s next to it on turn 3. Dealing 1 damage to a bunch of things shouldn't be that difficult by then for your opponent. And beyond that, the general strength of the Murlocs in Paladin just don't look very good at all, honestly. I did end up running this in a Murloc deck just because I wanted to give it a shot, but it is a Murloc Dragon hybrid deck because Blizzard seemed to be pushing that kind of archetype last expansion and stuff like that, and I think that if it's going to work, it's going to have to work there, and if it's not working there, it's not working anywhere. Maybe once we get more Murloc support, I'll feel better about this. But yeah, I don't think that Murloc deck is going to work. I'm just giving it a shot, at least. But yeah, this card, though, I'm giving it 2 stars. Then we have Underlight Angling Rod, 3 mana, 3/4 weapon. After your hero attacks, add a random Murloc to your hand. So this is a fine weapon. It's like a Fiery War Axe, and you get a Murloc when you attack with it. So I guess it just makes sense in a Murloc deck, but like I said, I don't have faith in any Murloc decks going into this next meta, so I'm giving this one 2 stars. Then we have Murgurgle, 2 mana, 2/1 Murloc, Divine Shield and Death Rattle. Shuffle Murgurgle Prime into your deck. And Murgurgle Prime is 8 mana, 6/3 Murloc with Divine Shield and Battlecry. Summon 4 random Murlocs, give them Divine Shield. So that is a huge effect. Honestly, despite the fact that I don't think Murlocs are necessarily going to be doing well in Paladin, I think this card is a good card anyways. I think if you just ran this in a Paladin deck, you'd be happy to have this. Definitely not insubstantial 2 mana, 2/1 Divine Shield body. And then once it dies, you're going to be getting a really awesome board flood later on in the game that's, because it's all got Divine Shield, that's quite hard to remove. So I did end up running this in like all of my Paladin decks because I just think it's solid for early game, solid for late game. I think a lot of these Prime cards make me feel that way, and this one definitely seems good in that case. For that reason, I'm going to give this one 5 stars. Then we have Hand of a Doll, 2 mana, give a minion +2/+2, draw a card. So this one is giving you that tempo and a draw. +2/+2 for 2 mana isn't even all that bad, and then the extra draw on top. This reminds me a lot of the old Power Word Shield that we had right before it got nerfed, like last week or whatever it was. You don't have a ton of draw options in Paladin now that Crystology is gone and stuff like that. So I put this card in all my decks, and I think it's very strong, and I'm going to give this one 5 stars. And then we have the Libram package, which makes up pretty much the rest of Paladin's cards they're getting. They have the Libram spells, and they have the support cards that discount the Librams. So starting with Aldor Attendant, 2 mana, 2/3, Battlecry, reduce the cost of your Librams by 1 this game. My initial thought was I thought this one was the weaker of the 2 support cards because it reduces their cost less and it's cheaper. But what I realized when I was building decks is what I wanted to be doing was discounting the Libram of Wisdom in more aggressive decks, and this card makes a lot of sense in that kind of an archetype where I didn't actually care to run the Libram of Justice or the Libram of Hope. I just wanted my Libram of Wisdom discounted, and this one is going to fit into a deck like that much better. So as a card that is going to be trying to make your Libram of Wisdom free, I really like this. If you do end up running a all Libram deck, you probably still want this. So I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Then we have Aldor Truthseeker, 5 mana, 4/6, Taunt and Battlecry, reduce the cost of your Librams by 2 this game. So when I was building my Paladin decks, I felt that I wasn't really inclined towards actually building a full Libram deck. It didn't feel right to me looking at its construction. Obviously, without playing it, I wouldn't know exactly how strong it would end up being. But my initial impression is that I'd rather not be running something like that. If Libram Paladin, like full Libram Paladin, ends up actually being a deck, of course this is going into it. And you maybe even choose this one over the Attendant if you'd rather have the heavier card and not run the cheaper, less impactful card. Of course, you could run both of them still as well. I did run both of the Libram discount cards and all the Librams in my Highlander Paladin, but overall I think this card is just playable, and I'm going to give this 3 stars. Then we have Libram of Wisdom, 2 mana, give a minion +1/+1 and Death Rattle, add a Libram of Wisdom spell to your hand. So whenever the minion dies, you get this card back. It's just like the old Explorer's Hat for Hunter, but the only difference being that you can make it cheaper than 2 mana. I think at 2 mana, yeah, it's a little expensive. Explorer's Hat didn't really see play. It wasn't really worth it to have something like that. Of course, Hunter didn't really have an archetype that really wanted a card like that in the first place, though. But I really like the idea of building a deck where you get a lot of value off of your Libram of Wisdom, putting it on more and more of your tiny minions. So I actually built 2 different Libram of Wisdom heavy decks. I think that might be where we're going. We have a lot of aggressive Paladin cards in their lineup right now. So having a card like this that really benefits that kind of archetype makes a lot of sense to me. I'm still not entirely certain that this is going to be incredibly impactful, so I'm going to just give it 4 stars. Then we have Libram of Justice, 6 mana, equip a 1/4 weapon, change the health of all enemy minions to 1. So it's an equality with a weapon attached. It's a little expensive for that, but with the discounts it becomes much more worth it for sure. But like I said, as I was building my Paladin decks, I wasn't feeling very excited about running stuff like this. I do think it's a fine card. I think it's a playable card. So I'm giving this 3 stars. Then we have Libram of Hope, 9 mana, restore 8 health, summon an 8/8 Guardian with Taunt and Divine Shield. So this is definitely the Libram that is pushing for all of these Libram cards to come together and make this Libram deck, because it's such a big effect when it happens. Even for 9 mana, it's not a bad deal, and any cheaper, it definitely looks really good. I just don't know if it can hold up an entire deck on its own. I don't know if it's quite that strong when we have so many Paladin control cards leaving Standard and we're not really getting them replaced by just these cards. So I'm also giving Libram of Hope 3 stars. And then our last Paladin card is Lady Liadrin, 7 mana, 4/6 Battlecry. Add a copy of each spell you cast on friendly characters this game to your hand. So clearly, this is meant to be used with the 3 cards that we got that all work with this expansion. Hand of Vidal, Libram of Wisdom, and Libram of Hope. So it definitely makes sense in a Libram deck, but super makes sense in a Libram of Wisdom deck. I think you could make a whole supply of Libram of Wisdoms and keep stacking them on each minion that you play, kind of like the way that the Priest quest works, except that you can even spread them out and definitely get more than +3/+3 potentially. So I did include this in my Libram of Wisdom decks that I built, and I think that that will be probably the best way to run it, so that you have all these 0 cost buffs going all over the place, and that seems like a really cool idea. I think before we saw all of these Libram cards, it definitely looked less exciting, but now with all of this, I think it'll be very good. I'm giving it 4 stars. Alright, so that's all the cards, so now let's dive in and check out the deck list that I've created. So this first deck is the Murloc Dragon Paladin. This is definitely the deck I'm feeling the most uncomfortable with, because I don't think that Murlocs will work, but we're going to look at it regardless. So we've got the Imprisoned Sungale, I've got the Dragon Synergies, so we have Sand Breath, we have Tasty Flyfish as one of those Murlocs that cross over between the Murloc and the Dragon, as well as the Skyfin also does that, and the Scale Lord, which is the dragon that gives all your Murlocs Divine Shield, so you can potentially set up some large minions or large Murlocs that are able to do some nice trades and stuff like that. There aren't actually a ton of Murlocs in here. There really wasn't a lot of space, and to include more Murlocs wouldn't have made the deck stronger. I felt that including more dragons was actually a lot better, because the dragons are a lot more solid. But we've got the Angling Rod, we got Murgurgle, which can help you in the early game and then help you in the late game. And I also threw in a Faceless Corruptor, because we're going to be having some small stuff on board, and even the Paladin Hero Power, of course, so that'll be a nice swing if you ever get that going. So I don't necessarily think this will be a amazing deck. We've seen a little bit of Murloc Dragon decks attempted before, and it didn't really work before. I don't think the new cards are really going to help it that much, but you never know. We'll see. Hand of Vidal alone might just be a strong enough inclusion to just push the deck a lot, because it's just such a strong early game buff with that draw on top of it. But yeah, we'll see how Murlocs end up being in this next expansion. Then I've got a Highlander Paladin. Highlander Paladin has been decent before, especially during the Doom in the Tomb event, so it may be able to come back this time. I have the Libram package with the Eldor Attendant and the Eldor Truthseeker, as well as all 3 of the Librams in here. We've got, of course, all of the Highlander cards, Zephyrus, Finley, and Dragon Queen. We've got Liadrin to get these buffs back in our hands. I also have Octosari, because I know Octosari is actually one of, I think, the most underrated cards. I put it in all of my decks that are lacking in draw that can afford to be running it. So it's in here because we don't have a ton of card draw, and it will definitely help us to get through our deck. We've got Mana Saber to get the extra mana, and just some solid early game minions to set us up. Especially Murgurgle again is here, and it's going to be giving us that late game push with its prime version. But yeah, of course, it's just a Highlander deck. You're generally just running good cards, so that's kind of what it's doing. I think Highlander Paladin has a decent chance of performing well in this coming expansion. Now I actually have two different decks that I think are quite heavily reliant on Libram of Wisdom. So this first one is a pure Paladin. It's got Righteous Cause and Brazen Zealot, all of these token generators like Sandwasp Queen, Shotbot, Skyclaw. It's got Salet's Pride, so we get some extra card draw because there are a few 1 health minions in there. Of course, we got the two pure Paladin cards that are Lightforged Zealot and Lightforged Crusader. Then we have Lady Liadrin to give us back some of these buffs, especially Libram of Wisdom, which is only getting discounted by the Attendant in this deck. I did not run the Truthseeker in this deck because it is a little bit too expensive. The Attendant kind of fits in there as a 2-drop, and we're hoping to get those Librams on stuff and continue to really snowball that advantage with that. And then my last deck is what I call Wise Paladin. It is a heavily reliant on Libram of Wisdom, similar to the last deck, but this one is not a pure Paladin. Because as I was building the pure version, I realized how many cards there are in neutral that I really want to be running in this deck. So this deck has lots of neutral cards. A lot of them are quite questionable, but I think if the Libram of Wisdom goes off hard enough and we get extra copies with Lady Liadrin, then this could definitely work. So again, we've got those solid early game minions, some of them with the Reborn, so they're coming back and stuff. I've got an Argent Squire, which benefits from getting buffs on it more than other cards because of the Divine Shield. But the main big cards here that are getting this Libram synergy going is we have Blistering Rot, which is not the most amazing looking card, but if you drop 2 Librams on it, then that makes it a 3/4 that turns into another 3/4, and if it survives, continues to make more 3/4s. I don't necessarily think it will survive, but that's not very important. If you get this off one time, then that's a pretty nice tempo swing, and you'll get back your Librams anyways, and the second copy can also, you can reapply your Librams to that one. You've got Questing Adventurer, so if you do have a handful of Librams, you can put them all on one minion. Probably not the Questing Adventurer if you can help it, so that it's splitting up the stats a bit. But every time you play a Libram, the Questing Adventurer will get larger. We have Violet Teacher, which can give us a lot of tokens when we spam out these Librams. But I think the most exciting one is Replicatatron. So you throw all the Librams on that one, or maybe not even before you've been able to get all them back yet. Because of course, if you wait all the way until Lady Liadrin, this could take a little longer, and it may be hard for you to keep up. But this one is a better way to get to it first, is you drop a couple onto one of them, it will duplicate onto a token of some sort, and then the Death Rattle will also duplicate, and you'll be able to create more Librams off of the second one. And if any of them live, you can continue to duplicate it, moving around, getting so many bonus Librams, and then you just throw them all down there. You'll be able to build up a hand of them quite easily, and I think this was the main reason why I really wanted to try this deck. This Replicatatron is going to be pretty cool. If it works, of course. Otherwise, this is just going to be a terrible deck, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed checking out my opinions on the cards, as well as the Theorycrafted decks that I've made. Feel free to try them out on day 1 when the expansion comes out. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment down below what you thought of my decks and my reviews that I gave the cards. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content in the future. We're continuing to do these final card reviews for all the classes, so you can look forward to that. Feel free to drop by my stream at twitch.tv/morktorkus. I'll be streaming Hearthstone the majority of the time, and definitely when Ashes of Outland comes out, we'll be doing a all-day stream and checking out all of these decks. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you guys in the next